Okay, folks, we've got another 5 minutes before the Bearpit starts. We do have one. Okay. So just a 5-minute warning. Could I have everybody's attention? I'm looking for a Marin Lowen. Is Marin Lowen in the crowd? She's gone home? Drinks are on her. Don and I are in.
What's happening now, don't
Yeah.
you?
You ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Is the minister, is the premier here yet? He is? Okay. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Fraser Tolmie, and I am the Mayor of the City of Moose Jaw and Municipalities of Saskatchewan Vice President of Cities. I will be the moderator for this morning's session. Please note that today's session will be recorded. Before we get going, I would like to call upon President Barnhart to make a special presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tolmie. Good morning, everyone. It's my honor to make a brief presentation this morning. It's not in your program, but it has come to our attention that we've missed a deserving individual yesterday who has completed the MLDP program and did not receive the recognition due to her. And so it's my honor now to call Stephanie Brown Monroe to come forward, and Minister Carr and I will pose with her for the photo, and we give to her our apologies for the error that was made to the list yesterday. Please welcome Stephanie Brown Monroe.
So are you part of the awards? Are you part of the awards? No, okay. Well, the RBC is supposed to be getting an award, right? So are they here? Okay. Okay, I now have a chance to give away some great prizes, all sponsored by RBC. Today, we are giving away a DJI Osmo Pocket Camera and Fitbit Versa smartwatch, and a 128 gigabyte gold iPad and iPad smart keyboard. You must be in attendance to win, so if the prize is not claimed, another entry form will be drawn. Unfortunately, a representative from RBC was unable to join us this morning, but Rachel Story, a public sector senior commercial account manager at RBC, sent greetings on their behalf. Do we have a recording for that? So I've got to read it? Okay. So I'm going to read what Rachel has sent forward here. Sorry, I thought there was a video accompanying this. Thank you for allowing RBC, through our sponsorship, to be part of your 115th annual convention. RBC is passionate and proud about helping clients thrive and communities prosper. By this, we can strengthen communities in which we live and work in. And we believe by supporting and standing behind the convention, we can show our support. RBC would like to thank every one of you in the room for your leadership and your work that you do in your local communities every day. It is your willingness to serve, knowledge, and dedication that allows us so many great communities in our province. So, the draw. Katie? And for the Fitbit and the DJI, Norma Weber of Watson. Norma, come on down. Norma, if you put the Fitbit on, you can measure the number of steps back to your table. I think it's charged. Congratulations. Photobomb. All right, and for the 128 gigabyte gold iPad, iPad smart keyboard. From Gull Lake, Stephen Hathwaite. Gull Lake, Stephen Hathwaite. Stephen, give us a wave if you're in the crowd. Oh. Stephen, you're going to regret not coming because everybody knows you're not here. That's a prize in itself for everybody here. All righty. Going once. Going twice. Like this could be a movie. He could be running through the hallway. Just had issues checking out a hotel. All right, he's not here. Whatever. Okay. Pat Shields from Stoughton, Saskatchewan. Congratulations, Pat. I think you can send a thank you note to Stephen at Gull Lake. Twin your communities. All right, congratulations to our winners. Now on to the event we've all been waiting for, the Bearpit. The Bearpit with our provincial, yeah, come on, let's get a round of applause here. This is what you guys been all waiting for. Woo! This is an opportunity for you to question our provincial government on their policies and initiatives. Please welcome our Premier and his cabinet, who are going to be joining us today. It is my honor to introduce the Honourable Scott Moe, Premier of Saskatchewan, the Honourable Gordon Wyant, Deputy Premier, Minister of Education, Minister responsible for SAS Builds, and Minister responsible for Priority Saskatchewan, the Honourable Don Morgan, Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Minister of Relations and Work Safety, Minister responsible for Saskatchewan Workers' Compensation Board, Minister responsible for the Global Transportation Hub, and Minister responsible for SaskTel. The Honourable Donna Harper, keep clapping, folks. Minister of Finance. The Honourable Jim Ryder, Minister of Health. The Honourable Dustin Duncan, Minister of Environment and Minister responsible for SaskPower. The Honourable Christine Tell, Minister of Corrections and Policing and Minister responsible for Saskatchewan Gaming Corporation. The Honourable Jeremy Harrison, Minister of Trade and Export and Development and Minister of Immigration and Career Training. The Honourable Greg Ottenbright, Minister of Highways and Infrastructure and Minister responsible for Water Security Agency. Keep it going, folks. We're halfway through now. The Honourable Ken Shoveldayoff, Minister of Central Services and Minister responsible for the Public Service Commission. The Honourable Dave Merritt, Minister of Agriculture, Minister responsible for Saskatchewan Crop Insurance Corporation. The Honourable Bronwyn Iyer, Minister of Energy and Resources, Minister responsible for Sask Water and Minister responsible for Sask Energy. The Minister, the Honourable Tina Beaudry-Meller, Minister of Advanced Education, Minister responsible for Innovation of Saskatchewan, and Minister responsible for Status of Women. The Honourable Joe Hargrave, Minister of Crown Investments Corporation, Minister responsible for Saskatchewan Government Insurance. The Honourable Paul Merriman, Minister of Social Services. The Honourable Jean Mikowski, Minister of Parks and Recreation, Culture and Sport, Minister responsible for Saskatchewan Liquor and Gaming Authority, and Minister responsible for Tourism Saskatchewan, and the Honourable Laurie Carr, Minister of Government Relations, Minister responsible for First Nations, Métis and Northern Affairs, and Minister responsible for the Provincial Capital Commission. And we are adjourned. Yay! Yeah, good morning. Well, thank you very much for being here. Before we start, there are some rules that we need to review. I'm going to please ask you, turn off your cell phones. If you are expecting an important phone call, please switch it to vibrate right now. Phones out, off, vibrate. Thank you very much. Questions will only be taken from registered delegates with blue, yellow, orange, or gray name tags. Yeah, that's including you, Premier. To ask a question, please proceed to a microphone. I will acknowledge you by the number posted on the microphone stand. We all have a role to play in creating a respectful environment. I will also remind you that I will only accept one question and statements are not allowed. To allow as many questions as possible, each speaker will have 60 seconds to ask their question. At 60 seconds, your microphone will be cut off. There are timers on the screen for your reference. We will now begin with questions. Please line up at the microphones and speak clearly for the purpose of our recording equipment. Microphone number 1.
Good morning. Dylan Claypool, Town of Asquith, Councillor, Deputy Mayor. I asked this question in one of the sessions earlier. There is 47 schools in 28 communities, 11,019 students in Prairie Spirit School Division. there is one youth mental health worker, psychologist for all the students. I was just trying to find some information on how we're gonna alleviate her workload and get her some help, because my sons are waiting to get in to see her.
Yep. Yeah, just, okay.
Well, thanks very much for that question. You know, the school divisions over the province, the school division through the Ministry of Education, we provide about $1.9 billion to public education through the operating fund, and we expect school divisions to use those funds in the best way that they can. Those funds are provided almost completely unconditionally. Now, we've had a 10% increase in psychologists across the province over the last 10 years, and a 60% increase in counselors. But we do know that there's challenges in our classroom, and that's one of the debates that's going on right now as between the government and teachers. We put a committee together last fall to talk about class composition, and that's really one of the issues which we need to get a handle on. We all recognize the fact that there's challenges in our classrooms around these kinds of issues. We also know that there's been a lot of work done interministerially, and I'm really happy with the work that we're doing with Minister Ryder and the Ministry of Health with respect to a number of programs to alleviate mental health challenges in the classroom. So as we move forward with our budget development and look to see what the needs are in the classrooms, we certainly have a focus on some of the challenges that they do have. And so I think that in terms of the amount of counselors, as I've said, and psychologists, there has been an increase across the system, but there's more work to be done, and the government's certainly well aware of some of the challenges that need to be addressed.
Thank you, and I think, Minister Ryder, you have an answer as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I would add to what Gord said. Gord spoke about what's happening in the school system. We also recognize, of course, this is a mental health need, and it includes outside the school system. So Saskatoon in particular, we haven't done as well as we have in Regina. The wait times are significantly longer. We're starting to make some inroads through a number of ways about how we deal with patient flow and with recruitment, but we recognize in that area particularly we have more work to do.
Okay, thank you. I have microphone number 3.
Good morning, Tracy Grandmaison from Town of Aberdeen. As elected officials, once in a while we're given the opportunity to make changes in our community quickly with something as simple as a yes. It renews faith that someone is listening and changes can be made. SaskTel currently has a program in place that allows for free internet in community buildings. However, this program is restricted to high traffic flow areas only. We have a beautiful rec complex in Aberdeen and have applied for this at least 3 separate times, and each time we've been declined. These community buildings, whatever they may be in your community, are often the hub. I would like to ask SaskTel and the minister to see if they could install free internet into 1 community building per municipality. It's an easy thing to do, and all you gotta do is say yes.
Thanks very much for the question. We expect SaskTel to operate independently and operate business efficiency. There are situations where free Wi-Fi is offered a number of places, including Mosaic Statement. In those cases, it's sponsored by whoever the host of the building is. So if you wanted to have that service available, either part-time or full-time, it's certainly something that can be made available to you through SaskTel. Would be paid for by the community or one of the businesses in your community. But we don't have, and it's not under active consideration now, that we would provide free Wi-Fi at any particular. It was always something we might be willing to look at in the future. If I can have Clint go over and see you, he'll give you some contact information where you'd be able to look to for the plan that's available. But there is a plan there.
The movie in my hotel room on last night was Yes Man, so I'm just found that was very funny, very fitting. Mayor Albers, microphone number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Gerald Albers, City of Lloydminster, Canada's only bi-provincial city. Thank you, Mr. Premier and Cabinet, for joining us today. We appreciate you taking this time. I'd like to direct this question to Minister Tell. We've been challenged for 12 years now since the RCMP detachment crossed from one side of the city to the other, yet we continue to have to provide police servicing to our residents. And there was a funding arrangement before, and after the detachment moved due to being upgraded, we lost that funding. Would the government of Saskatchewan agree to saying yes to returning that funding to the city, even at the rate 12 years ago? Thank you.
It's just for you, it's very difficult to hear the question.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on with the microphone. Anyway, I think I know what he wants to talk about. As we have talked, I've talked with the mayor, spoken with the mayor a number of times. We all in the province, and obviously the community of Lloyd, understands and appreciates the uniqueness of that particular community. There's something called the Lloydminster Charter, and policing falls under either Alberta or Saskatchewan Police Acts, but it can't fall under both. Therein lies the challenge. But we are working with the RCMP in both provinces to find a solution, as we recognize, as I spoke to, those unique dynamics that are in the city of Lloydminster. We will continue to keep this conversation going with our partners, our community, the RCMP. I am hopeful that we will be able to find some resolution to the challenges that are facing your community, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to ask everybody that please speak clearly into the microphone. This is being recorded, and so that everybody can hear your question. Microphone number 1, and then we'll be going to microphone number 4.
Good morning, everyone. Stephen Skredko, Mayor, Town of Waka. Been receiving a number of messages this morning from a number of ambulance services in regards to Federated Co-op sending out letters and restricting card volumes on their cards, 300 liters per day for diesel and 100 liters per card per day. Now that affecting a lot of rural services, not being able to maybe travel as far as they can and putting not only ambulances but fire trucks and other services that are in the communities now not being able to do the work that they need to do and to get out there. So I guess the question would be is maybe an update from the other day as to some of your comments, and if there would be any other way to help look at providing a backup or some type of agreement that they could, at least emergency services, fire and other things, could access more fuel than if in an emergency situation.
We have offered a mediator to the parties to get mediation underway and hopefully provide a long-term resolution. In the meantime, there have been injunctions made, fines levied. They're back in court again tomorrow. The actions with the picketers is something that's prevented fuel from moving out of the facility, and the fuel is not getting through any of the satellite facilities they have either in Alberta or Manitoba. So it's a problem. We're worried about it. We're watching it, and we'll continue to watch it. A few things. One, I would urge the parties to get to the table and get some work negotiating. B, I would say to everybody, comply with the law, and we look to RPS to enforce the law.
I'd just make a quick comment as well with respect to maybe following up on some of the comments I made the other day on this in my address to all of you here in this room. What we have here is we have a labor dispute, and it is a legal labor dispute. They do happen from time to time where the parties, they have a right to be on the picket line. There is a right for companies to exercise a lockout. That is all legal and does happen from time to time in a labor dispute. What is not legal is the fact that we have a blockade that is blocking fuel coming out of that refinery, and that is the impacts that I alluded to the other day, and I think that's the impacts that you're alluding to here today. Is there's some fuel restrictions that are not only placed on industries and the trucking industry that it could have an impact on our economy, but they're also placed on what are quite essential services, if you will. And I mentioned school buses taking our children to school. I also mentioned ambulances and the fire services that we have in your community and mine. So This is very much one of the reasons why we have come forward with our offer to both parties with a special mediator that does have additional powers and opportunities that a regular mediator would have, is able to hopefully bring both of these parties back to the table. That's where the best agreements always happen, in our opinion. So we appointed that the other day. It's our true hope that both sides will take us up on that offer of that special mediator, and that special mediator, as I said, will only be made available when the blockades come down, when the illegal blockades come down and everyone is in compliance with the law. And it's my sincere hope that in the next short while that both parties are going to take up our offer of working with that special mediator, taking a step forward, working towards a solution for this. This quite simply isn't the way we operate here in Saskatchewan, and it's time for us to get back to the table and find a better place, not only for the workers at the co-op refinery, but to ensure that our communities are not impacted across this province.
Thank you. Microphone number 4.
Thank you. My name is Kyle Bennett from Shaunavon, Saskatchewan. I'd like to start by applauding your efforts, Mr. Premier, your efforts in the fight against the carbon tax, your efforts in the support of the oil and gas industry, and your efforts to get pipelines built. We all know SARM played a huge role in eliminating the carbon tax for our farmers. My question today, Mr. Premier, is what can we do to support you? What can SUMA do? What can we do as municipal leaders and as community leaders to support you, Mr. Premier, and get our clean and ethically produced Saskatchewan energy to the rest of the world?
SUMA's already supported you on that.
Would I be so bold as to say vote in the next election? Yeah. Provincial and federal. You know, you're exactly right. We have industries here that create wealth in this province, and they are, you know, industries that have been impacted by a few different things. One, we've had some lower resource prices in the energy sector, the potash sector, the agriculture sector has cycled a little bit, and we've had some regulations and some initiatives that have come out of other levels of government, namely the federal government, yes, that have had a disproportionate impact on how we create wealth in communities right across this country. We have always said that we are going to stand up for the hardworking jobs that we have that we have in communities right across Saskatchewan, and we're going to continue to do that. We just intervened on the carbon tax court case in Alberta. We'll be taking that court case to the Supreme Court of Canada this spring. We have made an announcement this week with respect to advocating and putting an actual official committee together to see how the government of Saskatchewan can not only advocate but actively participate in ensuring that we can get some pipeline capacity out of this province for, let's face it and let's call it what it is, some of the most sustainable energy that is produced in the world. It's produced right here in this province, and it would do us well to get it, or to create access to other Canadians and to other people in North America and people around the world. The direct effect of that is not only good for the environment by allowing Canadians to access a more sustainable product, the direct effect by that is that us in this province and all of Canada by extension can do better from an economic perspective because we'll be able to receive world price for our energy. The indirect effect to us in this province is that we are actually able to move that energy product off of the rail system into the pipeline system where it's safer to transport, it's greener to transport it that way, but it allows us to reserve and preserve that rail capacity for other products like potash and timber and most importantly our agri-food products. And we are constrained there. 3 of the last 5 years we've had challenges with our export infrastructure being constrained, and the more energy that we can get in a pipe will not only get us will not only give us a better price for that product, but it'll open up some capacity for some of our other products to move them on the rails. And you know, when I spoke the other day, when ministers have spoken here, we've all spoken about the strength of our economy and how we want to grow our exports by 50% over the course of the next 10 years. Well, we need export infrastructure in order for that to happen, and it starts with pipelines, and that is the precipitous behind why we have formed this committee here this week. And we are going to actively and aggressively look at all opportunities that we have for the better wealth and health of our communities across Saskatchewan.
Microphone 1.
Michael Behill from this. Michael Behill from the city of Humboldt. I want to start by applauding all of you for being fiscally responsible with our money and our constituents' money in giving Saskatchewan the lowest per capita debt in the country. Significantly lower by our partnering provinces, as much as 87%. My question, though, is if maybe we've gone too far. At the same time, with those cuts, Saskatchewan spent the least amount of money in the country on mental health and addiction services. Yet we also saw the highest jump in the country in opioid-related deaths. The number of patients in Saskatchewan from 2013 to 2018 rose from 3% to 30% seeking counseling and addictions treatment. It's a 1,000% increase. We have the, Saskatoon has the second highest meth.
You've got 10.
Question. Okay, thank you. In Monday, Premier Moe said that you would step up for the people of Saskatchewan and look after them. I'm just questioning if this not the...
I'll just make a comment or two, and then Minister Ryder, I think, would like to make a comment as well with respect to mental health funding, mental health and addictions funding. And this is a topic that I think is no surprise that there would be some questions that come from the floor here, some conversation that happens in the Bearpit. This is a topic that we are talking a lot more about today than we did 5 years ago, and rest assured we're going to be talking about it a lot more over the course of the next 5 years than we even are today. This is a challenge not just for any in particular community in this province or this nation. This is a challenge at least across North America and the Western world. And it's one that we need to address, and we need to address collectively as not only governments of all levels, but as society as well. And we're familiar with Bell Let's Talk and some of the advocacy around reducing the stigma when it comes to those struggling with mental health. It's also this is something that cuts across all lines. This cuts across all lines, whether it be with respect to the different levels of poverty that we have. It really doesn't matter. The mental health and all too often subsequent addictions is going to be a great challenge for all of us in this room, and as families, as people in our community, and most certainly as our positions at different levels of government. It has been a priority for this government and will continue to be in the future from a financial perspective. We increased our mental health and addictions funding last year by some $30 million. I'll let Minister Ryder speak specifically to some of the cross-government investments that we have made with respect to mental health. That will continue to be a priority into the future. In saying that, we need to work together with our community-based organizations with that funding so that it is getting to the right places. We need to work with our communities with that funding so that it is getting to the right places, and we are actually having outcomes as the result of that investment. But you're exactly right. This is a challenge for all of us. This is a challenge for all of us as people, as family members, as people in our community. But Jim, do you have a little bit to add with specific to where last year's investment went and where we're heading in the future here?
I would. Thanks, Premier. I would just add to what the Premier said. He mentioned $30 million in last year's budget. In addition, we're over $400 million in mental health and addictions right now in the province. It's an area that all provinces are grappling with. The questioner spoke about opioids. We also have a huge crystal meth problem in this province that we need to get a handle on. You're seeing the results of last year's budget increase right now being announced in a number of different ways. A RAM clinic, it's an acronym for Rapid Action for Addiction Medicine. Clinics, one's open in PA in very short order. One will be opening in Saskatoon and in Regina. You're seeing both pre and post-treatment beds being announced right now in the next little while. There's a myriad of services that we're providing. At the start of the question, the person had mentioned about the fiscal situation in the province. I would say this, on mental health and addictions, we've been very fiscally prudent in most areas. mental health and addictions is not one area that we've been worrying about the money. We've been worrying about the services to be provided. We understand how important this is. You saw a huge increase next year. I think it's fair to say with an upcoming budget, you'll see us show that we're still extremely concerned about this issue.
Thank you. Microphone number 2, please.
Ralph Rathgaber from the RV of Melville Beach. My question is for the remaining government liquor stores, is there a plan to close them down? Are we going to follow the BC model where they have both, or is it going to follow the Alberta model where we open everything up?
Yeah, Gene Mikowski here. Thanks very much for the question. As we've, over the last few years, we've expanded the private retail in the province. I think that's worked out very well for our communities with more selection, more convenience, and competitive prices. That's something we ran on. We also ran on not putting capital dollars into retail stores. So we will continue with that, and we'll see where it goes. We have a collective agreement with the union, SGU, that expires on March 31st, committing to not close any of our 36 stores. But we'll, as we committed to, and we ran on the last election, we'll continue to monitor this situation as we go forward. Again, committing to not spend a whole bunch of capital when we could be building new hospitals and roads and schools in our province.
Thank you. Microphone number 4, please.
Thank you. Doug Barker, Mayor of Kyle, Minister of Health. I've been in the ambulance service for 40 years, and I've seen a lot of changes in our ambulance services across this province. Used to be that the Minister of Health department looked after licensing of all EMS. It was turned over to SCOP a few years ago, and it's cost us, the taxpayer, over $1 million a year to now license the EMS personnel in this province. It could be done so that now that we have a crisis with the ambulance services, we can hire at least 10 full-time EMS personnel into the rural Saskatchewan. The amount of money we're paying this private SCOP organization. Is the ministry looking into that so that we can probably get $1 million back into the EMS service?
Thanks for your question, Doug. What you're seeing right now is as a result of the amalgamation of all the health regions. We're trying to get some uniformity of service across the province, including EMS. We've got a lot of work going on. SHA is doing a review of ambulance service right now. They're working towards performance-based contracts. So I think it's fair to say that you're going to continue to see changes in ambulance service, but your point's taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone number 1.
Thank you. Lori Bresciani, City Councillor here in Regina. So, and thank you for being here and listening to and answering our questions. So, Saskatchewan has the highest rate of domestic violence in all of Canada, and Saskatchewan also has the highest rate of domestic violence against children. Regina Police Service takes 17 calls per day in this regard. And last year, the YWCA turned away 3,000 women and children. There was no shelter. So I know this should not just fall within the province, and it should not just fall with the municipalities. But I'm asking that, is there any work being done? I know that Claire's Law was worked on, as well as training for judges and the court system. But my question is there a collaborative opportunity to work with stakeholders to come up with a provincial strategy for investment specific?
Thanks very much, Councillor Bresciani, for the question. You know, the province has done a lot of work on the interpersonal violence and abuse tables, and I want to commend my colleague, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, and the previous Minister of Justice and Attorney General for really showing a lot of leadership on moving the dial. both legislatively and in terms of investments and initiatives that have been undertaken. The Status of Women Office is charged with the function of coordinating a lot of this work through what's called the ICVA tables, which is the Interpersonal Violence and Abuse tables. They've been working consistently with across stakeholder groups, whether that's past Saskatchewan Assault Services, with the YWCA and numerous other groups, and as well as at the FPT tables on this issue. I'm very proud of the work that this province has done in showing leadership on Clare's Law. I'm very proud of the work that has been done by this province with respect to sexual assault training for judges. I'm very proud of the work that we're currently doing with the Regina Police Service to pilot the Philadelphia model, which reviews all unfounded case studies with respect to sexual violence. I'm really proud of the work that has been done on paid leave for individuals who are leaving domestic violence situations. I'm very proud of the work that has been done by this government on revenge porn legislation to prevent people from sharing private, intimate photos as a way of bullying and creating violence against women. So a lot of work has been done. The area where we need to focus, and you'll see some focus coming, is on the awareness piece and on the prevention side. And you're going to be seeing some announcements about that coming shortly. But this government, I think, has worked really, really hard on this file. It's a difficult and complex file. I'm proud of the work that's been done so far, but there's still work to do, and I think we need to get at the prevention side, and that's where we're focused next.
Thank you. Microphone number 2.
Thank you, Premier and Ministers, for being here, hearing our questions and answering them. I would like to thank, this is for Minister Tell, I would like to thank you for making time with us over our concerns about the new deployment model and the Super Hub concept. I would also like to take the time to thank our MLA, Doug Steele, for making that happen. I'm going to continue just a little bit here. And again, thank you for hearing our concerns and committing to the communications on the issues of the Southwest. So I'm going to follow the rule of the floor, and I'll ask the question. Minister Tell, how was your Christmas?
Everybody wants to know.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with Southwest Group and MLA Steele yesterday, and we talked about the Southwest consultations that are taking place between the communities and the RCMP, and I hope that your fears and your concerns have been alleviated by some of the things that I said yesterday. There will be, we encourage the RCMP to go out and talk to people and find out what the best way is to interact appropriately with the community in their policing role and in their role as community members. And I think that yesterday I said that there will be no reduction in policing service in the province of Saskatchewan, in particular the Southwest. There will be no moving or elimination of detachments, and any proposal that would come forward from the RCMP as a result of appropriate communication and consultations with the community has to go through me. So I'm hoping that that helps.
Thank you. Microphone number 3, please.
Minister of Highway. We have a service road which is into Highway 16 through the town of Wynyard that was turned over to the town of Wynyard by the province back in the within that agreement. It was that the province was supposed to bring that service road up to standard when they turned it over to us. There's about 6 blocks that now, after talking to our engineers, it's due for pavement, but there is no sub-base underneath it. So we're looking at a over $1 million project just to get a 6-block section back up to standard. Let's partner with the town of Wynyard to get this up to standard, and how does the present government honor previous agreements that were made back in the 80s?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's pretty much standard procedure even to this day that when you have that kind of an agreement, you turn a road over to the the town or the city that there is that agreement with the condition of the road. So if that wasn't honored, we'll have to revisit that and have a look at what wasn't carried through with. But regardless of previous government or current government, we'll definitely look at honoring that commitment as best as we can. But on that same vein, I'm really, as I talked about in the conversation sessions ahead of time, I've only been in this file about 6 months, but I'm quite encouraged by not only to talk about our own government, the direction our own government's been going with specifically highways and infrastructure investment, well over $9 billion over the last 11, 12 years, $700 million last year. Where we're going with the new growth plan, $30 million in infrastructure, highways included in that. A lot of that in partnership with municipalities and towns. We look for every opportunity, whether it's with business and municipalities, to partner on different projects to maybe accelerate or expand some of the projects so they're more reflective of what the need is, not only of what the current traffic, but also just the local information that they know what's coming. We're open to hearing that input as well to make sure that we don't circle back and do a better job on something that's already can actually fulfill the current commitment, but look forward to the future to see what we need to do to make sure we not only have safe and good highways for our citizens, but also highways and infrastructure that's going to continue to grow to get our export base, whether it's the more larger city level or on the.
Thank you. Microphone number 1, please.
Hi, Val Priestful. I'll open with a question and then I'll just. Do you know something? We are, you and all of these in the room, when earlier he said ambulances don't have gas. The fire is short of gas. Did you hear it? I want to ask you, are any of you concerned that the people won't get to the hospitals? And then I'm going to ask all of you to your neighboring communities, and yes, because maybe it's your parents that won't get to the hospital tonight, and the neighboring fire department and ambulance get there. We are Saskatchewan, and
thank you.
I did have a question.
Oh, I appreciate that, and we need to hear and I've been respect to where the government of Saskatchewan is on both the what is a legal labor dispute and what is an illegal blockade. We have taken steps from the provincial government's perspective to appoint a special mediator. I should maybe just add that that doesn't happen very often. It's happened, I believe, about 6 times. There's been the appointment of a special mediator over the course of the last decade and a half. So it is not a common occurrence. We've done it in this case for the urgency and the reasons that have just been indicated, that both sides will take us up on this offer. I've made some fairly strong comments with respect to this the other day, and I reiterate those again today.
Thank you. Microphone number 2, please.
Hi, Jordan McPhail, Town of Larange. My question is in regards to the youth suicide crisis. I think this is affecting everybody across the province here. We heard multiple people come up and talk about mental health in the schools and having access to mental health. There was an opportunity for the government to draft up a suicide prevention strategy, and you let that die on the order paper. And I would like to know, it's a 2-part question. Number 1 is, why did you let that die? You did state that there was going to be that there needed to be a comprehensive plan, and secondly, if there was a comprehensive plan being drafted, what have you done in the intervening time to address this serious crisis, and especially in our northern communities?
So first of all, I'll address the suicide prevention strategy. What the questioner is referring to is a bill, their prerogative. The concern we had with that bill is that it just simply said that the suicide prevention strategy, we would direct the SHA the suicide prevention strategy. Well, I think we've gone far beyond that already. On the policy side of it, first of all, that would be the HA. The ministry's been doing a great deal of work on that. One of the things that I've tasked them with a number of months ago, they've been doing across, we have a number of for mental health, for addictions we were earlier. Frankly, I don't care if you call it a strategy, a plan, an action plan, whatever you want to, got to get a handle on this problem. This is incredible. People are dying. We have a mental health and addiction plan in this province. We have for some time. What I've asked them to do is to look at if their success jurisdictions are having, how they're dealing with it, and what would be relevant and should be used in Saskatchewan. So that's what the ministry's been working on. And as far as in the interim, I don't want to be repetitive, but we've talked about a number of resources that have been put in place in last year's budget. Mental health and addiction need to be a priority for this government.
Thank you. Microphone number 3 and number 4.
Jackie, Councillor. My question is, will the municipalities be seeing money from the cannabis excise tax in the near future? I also understand that applications for cannabis licenses were $1,000 each. Where did that money go as well? Thank you.
The short answer to the question is no. I have been very clear that we are sharing a portion of the 2-year agreement with the federal government. The municipalities do the PST on the cannabis through the revenue sharing formula, but beyond that, the excise has gone into the general revenue fund to help pay for obviously all of our pressures. However, the anticipation was that there was going to be far more revenue from that stream than what has been the reality. So the combined excise and PST tax in our present budget is about $11 million. Not the windfall that was sort of projected by the federal government when they brought in this initiative. We have a 2-year agreement with the federal government on the excise tax. That will be expiring. We're into the 2nd year now, so we don't know what the next agreement will be. We may get 0 for the excise tax. We don't know. So the answer is no. We are not entertaining any split of the excise tax at this point in time, but the municipalities do get their share through the revenue sharing formula of the PST.
Microphone number 4, please.
Velda Weatherald, councillor for the village of Knosey Lake. Our little village borders Moose Mountain Provincial Park. This is an issue that's been brought up by our council in the past. It's obvious we need money for health and education, yet we have an untapped resource in the parks where people are building multi-million-dollar homes and do not pay any education or health tax. So I'm wondering where that issue is. Has it been dropped again?
Yeah, thank you for the question. This has been talked about for many years, as you know, and it affects Knosey especially. It's a bit of a complex situation where within the provincial parks, people aren't allowed to own land. They can only lease the land. And there's 2 parts to the fees that those lessees pay. The direct service costs, as you know, and that's negotiated and is a direct cost. But then the lease fees are on top of that. So the last round, they went up roughly 12%. Depending on who you talk to, they say and certainly not enough. But it's like when I used to rent an apartment. I didn't directly pay the education property tax. The owner did, and the owner is the government of Saskatchewan. The people of the province own that land, so it's not a direct correlation. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, a large amount of money. We can take a look at it, the next round assessments, which I believe are in 2022, 23.
Microphone number 2.
Lloyd Seymour, Town of Springside. In the past, municipalities did SGI to increase the call rate to $1,150 an hour. We did not. Our call rate is $5 an hour. Our auxiliary/volunteer go to MVA accidents at all hours of the day and night. Why is it that SGI will not to $1,150 an hour, or even offer a funding fire departments to purchase equipment to assist in saving lives?
Thank you for the made some to EMS and firefighters and volunteer firefighters in just in the past year and a half, and questions this very forum. So we've worked well on that, and we expect that we'll continue to work with municipalities on that specific thing. We made it in, say, about a year and a half ago, and I mean that's something that's up for review on a regular. When we did do that, and we did bring some of the waiting time, when you're out there, those to a better rate for everyone. So we think that that was a good start.
Thank you. Microphone number 4.
Robert Mardell, Mayor of the Town of Choiceland. Premier Moe, you alluded to getting out of our province. Has there been any collaboration with our, any investigation into whether or not upgrading of the or even of a pipeline to Churchill would help in our problem that we have? Thank you.
So I'll just make a couple of short comments, and Minister Harrison is about to jump out of his chair over there. So we'll make sure Minister, who is very up to date and engaged on this file specifically. The corridor to the Port of Churchill is privately owned now. Province of Manitoba, but also some discussions with not only the that owns the rail line, communities along the way, but of whatever product you may be sending up that direction. There is, in this nation, we're having a little bit of trouble on the whole east-west pipeline conversation. Open, and we're going to take what we can when we can get it. And as I said, the effect of that is capacity on our rail for all of the other products that we want to move out of this province. So, Jeremy, do you want to speak? Not only Churchill, but maybe also to the committee that was announced this week, and your thoughts in general on how we're going to increase our exports by 50% and get all of that product out of the country.
Yeah, well said, Premier, and thank you. With regard to pipelines, I would say whether that be to the west coast of Tidewater, to the east coast of Tidewater, to the north and north built in this country. And it has been incredibly, and as a jurisdiction to be, and I'll tell you what it's about. Your resource, you own the oil, and we right this morning have a $24 amount here in this province. Western Canadian Select is $24 left, not less than the world. That is costing all of us $300 million a year in terms of revenue for the government and billions a year activity. That's a children's hospital a year that we are being cost because we cannot get a pipeline built in this country. So Premier appointed just this week a cabinet committee that's going to be tasked with working with proponents in moving beyond advocacy and having the government involved in discussions to do what we need to do to get a pipeline built. And there's a number of different options in that regard that we will be. But I'll tell you, we are committed to getting a pipeline built in this country because it is costing all of us hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Does she know she wants it?
Well, I guess it is the necessity, and has certainly come to be in this country, that East-West is increasingly strangled and bottlenecked. And so as a province, we feel we absolutely must look at every option on the table and leave no stone unturned when it comes to what we can do to get that egress going and get our product moving. And I think that's our job. I think that the next few weeks and months involve, of course, about how this will work, how north-south up to Churchill, there are, possibilities for potential, and getting that net back for our to the producer from Shaunavon. Just keep doing what you're doing. We have your back. For you and what you do, because it's been a very difficult few years. And so we feel that's our job.
Microphone number 4, and then I'll be going to 3.
Councillor Village of Pleasantdale.
Can I get you to speak into the microphone just a little bit?
When I get any closer, I'll be eating it.
Reset his time there. Thank you.
Councillor for the Village of Pleasantdale. My concern, or lack of, two towers. One is, and yet we have some of the worst cell phone coverage. I was just wondering what could be done to alleviate that problem.
Thanks very much for the question. We have added more cell phones and have more cell phones under construction, more cell phones coming online over the course of summer. I'm not sure whether there's one going in your community or not. I'm going to have one of my staffers come over and see you, and then we'll get some direct information. We'll find out where it is on the goal is to try and have good cell phone coverage along all the major highways through most of the I don't know how big the community you're living in is or whether you're in, but we will want to make sure that we have a careful look at it. But we have never added as much as we have in the last 12 months. Some of the equipment was held up, not saying any particular reason Huawei, but we will work our way through and try and get those towers in place very quickly.
Thank you. Microphone number 3.
Don Tower, Mayor of Norquay. I was just going to direct this to the Minister of Highways. We have 3 major industries right at our town, within about 3 miles, sorry. And I was wondering if there's going to be any work done on the Highway 49 from Highway 9 to the Manitoba border. It's getting pretty bad.
I don't know the specifics of that project. We'll have to, one of the people we have here in the room will get a hold of you and we'll get some specific information. But as we talked about in the breakout sessions earlier as well, I'm really impressed with highways, the Ministry of Highways and their plans when it comes to prioritizing highways projects. Around also when it comes to moving agriculture product or potash or whatever the case might be. Sure we have those corridors, prioritizing them as best as possible. So again, I'll get somebody to get a hold of you here before the project is specifically on the capital list. Again, with the investment we have made and we will be making over the next number of years of highways that are either upgraded or rebuilt, including kilometers of multiple over 2,000 culvert projects, well over 200 bridges, a lot of being over as well. And I see Robin's right behind you there, so she'll stalk you.
There's a lot of highways in this province, but we have. Okay.
Hello, Dave Lake. We had the just first time last fall, and I know the minister. Question is Highway 26 after the gravel I mean, all they've done is tear up.
Question.
And all of a sudden you have a slow down, and then you realize it's just about 30 feet of blacktop, and then you're black to gray.
You squeaked that in.
As I've sat through this convention of building sustainable hometowns, we are municipal leaders. We're losing services. Hospital labs with hour cuts. We need support for the families, the teachers. Is less. You can't throw dollar figures out and expect problems to be work and being resilient, but it's getting harder to maintain to be taking that away. Mine closures, teach increase, larger companies buying out smaller, which is cutting jobs and forcing people to move. Let's work together and build sustainable hometowns without the expectations of these communities to pick up more. My question is, when did bigger become better?
All right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the concerns, and I, and as many of us up here and other MLAs across the province are always talking not only with our municipal leaders, but with leaders within the different organizations that we have in our communities. And you know, as we have moved forward through the last number of years, there has no doubt been some challenges. I alluded to that yesterday. Some of those challenges have been created by a growing province, a growing population, and growing traffic on our highways, and growing numbers that are going into our schools, yes, and our healthcare facilities. We have made every effort to grow the investment that is going into those line ministries. Yes, it is money that goes into the line ministries, but also goes into the infrastructure and the people that are working in those facilities that are in communities right across this province. Education, for example. When we formed government in 2007, our education budget was just under $1 billion. Last year was the largest investment in K-12 education in the history of the province of Saskatchewan, $2.48 billion invested into our K-12 education. And we continue to invest and invest heavily into new schools. Over 40 new schools built. We have schools that are being constructed as we speak in Moose Jaw, in Regina, and other communities, and we're going to continue to. We have in healthcare, have had an act of the last decade in partnership with on medical professional retention and attraction. Physicians and nurse practitioners and nurses were up, I believe, over 900 working across this 3,000 nurses. Work to do, because we do continue to grow. We grow our economy, we grow the opportunity, we grow the opportunity that we have to grow as communities across, and ultimately, at the end of the day, that is the North Star of this government, is to continue to grow the jobs so that my child and your child have the opportunity to stay here. And quite frankly, we haven't always had the opportunity here in this province, as most of the friends that I graduated don't live here. They moved away for good paying jobs in other areas of North America. So I'm excited about the future of Saskatchewan. I'm excited about the opportunities that we have. And I very much look forward to collaborating with this organization and other organizations and individuals across this province as we can make for a better Saskatchewan.
Microphone number 4.
Thank you. City Councillor Moose Jaw. Moose Jaw is part of the rural and northern immigration in Canada. I think there's 11 communities across the nation. We are the only one in Saskatchewan. We partially funded the beginnings of this program in our provinces out in Canada actually anticipated endorsing about 20 their provinces. And I'm just wondering, with the growth strategy being that we want to increase Saskatchewan to 1.4 million, what is the strategy that that Premier Moe and your fellow cabinet members might have around ours, particularly on it's going to take all 3 levels of government to welcome and to be resourceful around our. Thank you.
Great. Well, good question. And as Minister responsible for immigration, I'm happy to respond. The reality is that the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program has been one of the most successful programs in the entire country, and it's been incredibly important and valuable in growing the population. Of the remarkable population growth that we've had, a large proportion of that has been due to the success of international immigration nominee program, and that's something that we are proud of. And you know, a big part of the success in terms of the integration and settlement of newcomers is because of work that we have done with municipal governments right across the province through our gateways, and also in partnership with our service delivery agencies in all of those communities. So, you know, we would envision that we've been working in close collaboration with the federal government. I think there are areas around immigration where the province is better positioned to deliver a lot of the services than the national government is. The reality is we're duplicating a lot of what we do, particularly around settlement, where if there had been, as there are in some other jurisdictions, a single model for doing it, you would find efficiencies and improved outcomes as well. So we've been working with Ottawa on that. We've continued to advocate for faster processing times. You know, our provincial nominee program is now working, depending on the stream, between 6 weeks and even down to 2 in some cases. And then we're waiting for over a year. And it's not we as government, but those who are making application are waiting for over a year or longer in terms of the federal processing time on this. So there are a lot of very legitimate ways that this could be done in a more efficient, effective way. And we think that that's going to be to the benefit of our communities and our province in doing so, and we're going to work with Ottawa on that.
Microphone number 1, and then we'll be going to number 2.
Good morning. Darren Hill, City Councillor, Saskatoon. My question is for Minister Morgan. I'm going to start with an apology. I spoke to the resolution on consultation protocol, and I've referenced prompt payment legislation. My intention was not to cause confusion or questions around that legislation. I understand why that legislation is being presented. We had a significant municipal project a number of years ago that went to an out-of-province contractor. The subcontractors received about 80 cents on the dollar, some of it 8 months, some of it a year after the invoices were issued. This would have hopefully helped alleviated that mess. So moving forward, my concern is that municipal projects are never the same. The layers of review and inspection before we sign off take a bit of time. I'm not sure we're going to make the 28-day deadline. What have you put in place for a safeguard so that municipalities are able to ensure we have a proper review process and we're getting what we had contracted for?
Thanks very much for the question, Councillor Hill. I live in your city, so I'm well aware of some of the past issues that were there. When this came forward 2 years ago as a request from the Construction Association to try and address the imbalance between large out-of-province general contractors coming in, taking advantage of local contractors, either not paying, delay paying, grinding out. So we said to them, we will pass this legislation modeled on what took place or is taking place in Ontario. You figure out how you would like to have an adjudication process. We'll assign it to you. We don't think that should be the role of government. They've come back to us and they said they think they will be ready by January 2021, a year from now. It became more complex. They looked at what's taking place. So we'll work with them on that part of it. So what you're talking about is, should there be delays for larger contractors? Should there be exemptions for the city? I like the idea that people pay their bills on time, but we've allowed some other exemptions or suggested we will. So the simple answer is we're going to review some of the large projects, because one of the recommendations that came out of our consultation was that projects above a certain size should be treated differently. And another option might be where there is a payment certifier. And in those cases where we're trying to preserve the imbalance, we'd say, okay, then you pay the certified amount or whatever else into court or into trust, so that we're not a matter of saying to the subcontractor, then there is no money left for you. So we would regard this as being somewhat of a work in progress, and your point's really well taken.
Thank you. Microphone number 2.
Melanie Obashan, Mayor, Northern Village of Buffalo Narrows. In regards to crown land lease rates, in my area of northern Saskatchewan, most leases are utilized by local Indigenous lessees. We utilize these lands for traditional purposes to teach our young generation the importance of what the lands can be provided for us, such as berry picking, trapping, hunting, picking of medicines, and so forth. The lease amounts that are being implemented are not feasible, as the amounts are sometimes more than what you would pay for your land tax in our municipality. In order to qualify for a TRU lease, you need to have a trapping license, which I believe is discriminating, and shall not be an obligation or criteria in order to qualify for a traditional resource user.
Question.
What is going to be done to expand the definition of TRU, as well as the review of the obscene amounts being charged to locals who have lived off the lands for decades?
Great, thanks for your question. So we went through a process of, over the last couple of years, to make sure that what was being charged for the use of Crown land, so the land that everybody owns in this province, for private personal uses, and in some cases commercial uses. So we went through a process of looking at what type of fee structure we would need to ensure that there was fair and adequate compensation for the use of that land. Keeping in mind that, so for some cases, for like a remote recreational, if I had a remote recreational site in northern Saskatchewan on Crown land, the fee was $275 a year, and going back for a number of decades. And we felt like particularly after about 15 years that had not been touched, maybe that was something that we needed to adjust. So we went through a process, had a consultant do a study for us. We have, as you have noted, made a change. What we have done is that $1,500 a year, and I'm only talking about one category. I know that there's a lot of different categories, but for that one category, we're proposing to phase it in over 4 years rather than 2 years. We're also looking at the option for people, if they just want to buy their lease, they can buy their lease. That hasn't been an option to this point. On the specific of traditional use, you know, I think it's important to note that there is no cost for that, but I understand the issue of having to essentially show proof that you would be a client that would essentially get that reduced cost. So I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards and look at some ideas that we can make that definition more accessible.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go with microphone number 4, number 1, and number 1, and then we're going to wrap it up. So we're going to try and squeeze you guys in here. So microphone number 4.
Sean Checkley, Mayor, Village of Fox Valley. First of all, I'd like to thank Minister Duncan and the government, essentially, with the support of our incinerator project in southwest Saskatchewan. It always hasn't been easy to get to where we are, and hopefully we're down the right road. But with the solid waste management program and report being released, after meeting yesterday, or day before, sorry, with the ministry, that project's been funded completely by local municipalities. as we move forward, the group of 45 municipalities will hopefully look for funding, whether it's through government relations or through the Ministry of Environment itself, so we can take this on. So I guess the question is can we make sure that projects like this are forced and fast-tracked when there is regional cooperation of that size being done?
Thanks, John, for the question, and we really appreciate working with the folks down in the Southwest on this incineration project. I think it works very well with, the potential of it works very well with what we've done on the solid waste management strategy, and I know that there's a number of people, including Gordon Barnhart and Renee Harper from Nipawin, that were a part of putting together that strategy for the province, and we're trying to pursue innovation where we can, and new technology, and so we're happy that you have found a provider of an incinerator, not American-based, but a Canadian-based one that will have a better understanding of the standards that we're trying to hold to. What we have focused on in terms of our funding through the Ministry of Environment to this point, and I think largely, or the Government of Saskatchewan, is on providing funding, so smaller amount of funding on the assessment side on things like landfill closures, because we know that's an issue for a number of communities, and I think 10 communities this last year received funding for that. And then through the Investing in Canada, the ICIP, I think there were about 5 communities that received funding to actually go ahead with decommissioning their landfill, and I think that's where our focus has been to this point in terms of funding availability from the provincial government. That seems to be the priority that municipalities have put forward to us. But I think we'll look to see how your pilot project goes on your incinerator project, and so no commitments on any funding on that. We're funding where we can, what we can right now with the levels that we do have, and we'll see where the federal provincial infrastructure funding goes forward in the future.
Yeah, Sean, I think that's a really great project that you have going, and you've got a really good start going. Congratulations to you and all of the municipalities that you're working so cooperatively with. That's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about municipal cooperation, things that you can do together to just make things work. So thank you so much for that, and to the theme of the convention is hometowns and keeping them strong. It's that kind of stuff that's going to keep it strong. But the Investing in Canada program is exactly what the Green Stream, it's projects like this that could possibly fall under that. So as you get moving, you've got a good start here now, and as we move forward, that's definitely a possibility for you. So we won't rule that out moving forward.
Microphone number 1.
Sandy Weiland, Councillor, City of Humboldt. I first of all would like to thank you for your work and commitment to increase mental health services. However, one of the biggest issues for at-risk people, what they face in many instances, is their ability to get to these services from the rural areas, or in our case, even from Humboldt to Saskatoon. So my question is, does the province, the government, have any plans to assist in overcoming this challenge now that there is no provincial transportation system?
I think Minister Hargrave is going to want to add to this on the transportation side. One of the things we are doing in healthcare is for mental health and addictions, we're trying to take advantage of technology. We're looking at things we can do online to help provide services. Oftentimes, I think there may be a significant amount of that coming down the road, particularly for our youth. Specific to the transportation side, I'll ask Minister Hargrave.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. The old transportation company served less than half of the communities in the province, and losing money in the area of $20 million per year. So that was one of the issues, and it was a tough decision to stop that transportation company from operating, but it was one that was necessary to invest that money in health services and education services. And now a lot of communities have come up with some unique ideas as to providing transportation, and we encourage that. I mean, Gravelbourg, Creighton, City of Prince Albert. There's been a lot of private companies start companies to assist with transportation, but unfortunately ridership is just down and low, and some of them have had to close. So we encourage each community to maybe come up with an idea, maybe present some ideas where we could possibly help. But to pay for it, I mean, we'd have to take that $20 million from what fund, I guess, from do we take it from education, or do we take it from mental health? Do we take it from municipal revenue sharing? Where do you take the $20 million from? It's a lot of money, and that's just on an annual basis. And if you wanted to cover off the whole province, because I said we only served less than half the province before, so if you wanted to cover the whole province, so you could double that money, and that'd be $40 million, and that was an annual operating. So it's a tough question, and I understand the need for transportation. So we do have to look. I mean, health has some areas where they can help transportation. I think they helped 78 communities last year with funding for people with disabilities. I know that's not mental health, but there's ways and means, and I think municipalities, and some of them, I applaud them for some of the unique things that they've done and they've tried to do with provide services for their citizens, and it's great. Thank you.
Okay, one more comment, and then I've got the last question.
So very quickly, I want to use this opportunity to highlight the work of the University of Regina, who offers an online support, which would be available to people that don't necessarily live in an urban environment where they can access supports. It's called onlinetherapy.ca. The University of Regina is a leader in PTSD and mental health and wellness, and that's something that everyone here can access. So again, it's onlinetherapy.ca, and there are many to that along with modules, and I would encourage communities in our province to check it out.
Last and final question.
Thank you. I think for towns and villages right now, it's the time where we start to raise funds for our rec centers, and it's going to be a tough year with what's going on in the ag sector right now. And Mr. Merritt hasn't had a question in a while at a SUMA convention, so I have a question for him. I'm wondering what you're doing to help the ag sector get their product to market, and I'm also wondering if there's any incentives for agribusiness to start happening outside the larger centers. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Mike, for the question. And I think you heard the Premier talk and Minister Harrison talk about some opportunities that we have in moving product to market. Obviously, we're always challenged with the railway sector, especially in the wintertime, and challenged around that. We have announced in the previous budget about some good incentives on tax incentives for value-added processing and opportunities of that nature. We are very active, engaged in trade missions. Myself was in Mexico a year ago. We've got some very good interest from companies in Mexico looking to do business here. I will be leaving tomorrow on a trade mission to United Emirates, India, and Bangladesh, obviously for those same reasons, to enhance our trade and business opportunities, but also to encourage companies, foreign companies, to look at doing business here. I think there's huge opportunities. And one of the things that I do want to tell the crowd, I think is very important to recognize, the customers around the world are looking at Saskatchewan and looking at Western Canada for agriculture for probably the biggest reason in the world is environmental sustainability. They are really looking at what we're doing and how we're doing it here. The companies in Mexico that I talk to are really looking to do more business here in Western Canada. So we have some challenges, as the Premier has alluded to, on the transportation side. We are doing, with the committee, I think we're going to do you're going to see some exciting things happen, and we're doing everything we can with trade missions to enhance business opportunities. And I'm excited about agriculture in the next 10 years. We have some huge opportunities, and we're going to see some good growth. Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. They're cracking jokes over here. I almost was going to split them up here. I feel like a teacher. Oh my goodness. With that, we conclude the Bearpit session. If you've submitted a written question and we didn't get to it this morning, our staff will send it to the appropriate ministry for follow-up and forward any responses to the member municipality that submitted the question. I'd ask you that you please join me in thanking the cabinet ministers for their participation today. I will now turn things over to Dale Domji of Municipalities of Saskatchewan Director and Convention Chair. Dale, do you want to please come up?
I'm just going to be 2 minutes. I'm just going to be about 2 minutes, but go ahead if you want. Thank you very much, Fraser. We're just going to let our ministers get back to work, so just take a couple minutes here. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, I'd like to thank our sponsors, special guests, and of course our delegates for making the convention a great success. I hope the last 4 days have left you ready to build the communities of tomorrow. If you want to see more of the sessions that you attended or at the convention, or if you want to check out some of the ones that you missed, we have recorded education and breakout sessions, and they will be available on your website. Excuse me. The website is now munisask.ca, and our YouTube channel will be available later on this month. I'd like to thank the rest of my convention committee, convention planning committee, for their guidance and for the planning of this year's convention. The planning and work that went into the past 4 days was phenomenal. And I think that we all agree that the result of the convention has been a big success. I want to acknowledge our wonderful staff, especially Katie here, who looks after the entire project. So thank you very much. So before we come to a close, we have a few more prizes to give out. Last year we introduced our new convention app, and we are thrilled at how many people that downloaded the app. This year we once again are blown away by the number of you using the app and to make the most out of the convention experience, including playing the in-app game. Some of you were are so eager to play the game this year that you had already achieved a high score before the convention even started. We wanted to give everyone who reached the top point amount a chance to win a prize, so this year we will be drawing names for 6 fantastic prizes. If the winner is not in the room to accept the prize, we will draw another name. So, Katie? Draw away. Steve? No, I don't. The first winner is Kara, and I'm sorry, Kara. We've been on a number of committees together. I cannot pronounce your last name. Tekarob? She's gone? Okay. This is for a Samsung Galaxy Tab A. The winner is Candace Quinton. Candace? All right. Beat? Beats. The next is for a set of Beats headphones. And the winner is Mo Chaudhry. All right, there's Mo. Next prize is an Apple Watch going, going to Michael Morrow. Michael, you're in the room? Not here? He is? All right. No, he is. He's right here. Michael? Tycrobe. Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. The next is a gift basket provided by Phoenix Group. And the winner of that is Albert Boylak. And I really like the looks of the next gift basket. And we have another gift basket provided by Phoenix Group, going to Michelle McKenzie. Michelle, you here? Has Michelle left? She's coming? All right, there she is. Thank you. Wow. Michelle, are you sharing that? And the grand prize is an iPad, and it's going to Gwen Johnner. Yeah, she's on her way. So congratulations to all of our winners. We hope that you found the convention app useful. Next year we will be introducing even more features into our sessions. And remember that this year is the last year for the handbook, so it'll all be on the app next year. For Convention 2021, we are also introducing some new technology to make booking your hotel rooms for convention even easier. No more calling around. You will be able to book your rooms for any of the convention hotels from one website. So watch your inbox this spring for more information about our new hotel booking system. We will also let you know when you can start booking your rooms in early 2021. On your way out today, please be sure to recycle your name badges for a chance to win a prize. Just drop your name tag into the bin on your way out. While you're doing that, we ask you to drop in the email card so that we can email you with the information, more information from us. Please also remember to fill out the online evaluation forms. That helps us plan for the next convention and even the one after that. Your feedback always is important to us. The link to the evaluation will be available on our website. We will send it out to the new municipal, or in the new municipal update, formerly the urban update, and you can also expect to see it arrive directly in your inbox. By submitting the evaluation, you have another chance to win a prize. With that, we thank you all for coming. Safe travels, and we hope to see you all next